Well, first, thanks for sitting down with us. This is our first time really sitting down with someone on video. But everywhere I go, people always ask me about my relationship with you, the Boys and Girls Club, all the stuff that you do in the community. So I figured let's put this on video.
No doubt.
And let's let people hear from you, your perspective on things in life and your strategies and all the stuff you and I talk about offline. Let's let people just hear from you, from your voice.
I love it.
So let me tell you one of the things I hear all the time is, man, why is Mike going to Flint, Michigan, and why is he going to Oklahoma? Why is he in Milwaukee? Why is he going helping Tony Robinson? Why is he there with Janelle, meeting with the police with Janelle? That's not a Boys and Girls Club role. That's not his role. Stay in your lane. Like, that's not what you do. Like, what do you say to people who say stuff like that?
I don't think leadership should ever be defined by geography, right? So in our mission statement, we said that we would serve all kids. So whether it's a young person in Chicago, Ferguson, Flint, Memphis, if there's an area where we can lead and provide leadership, we're going to do that. My board has supported that. This community has supported that. Our donors have supported that. And so whether it's Flint, the mayor in Flint call, or other African Americans or Latino leaders or communities of color or poor white kids need help in another part of the country, and if we're in a position to help, it's a ministry. Why not? So,
a lot of times you hear a lot of people hating on our coming down leaders for just showing up places. So are people calling you to Ferguson? Are they calling you? Or you just see some disaster somewhere and you just say, I'm just going to show up?
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen?
I've only showed up to one place without being called on, and that was in Flint, Michigan. And so in Ferguson, it was the mayor and it was the president of Urban League that called on me. In the Tony Robinson situation, it was a friend of Tony Robinson's mother who has called on me. When there's been shootings in Madison's, it was either the families or other community leaders who have called on me and our organization to support it. Now, Flint was different. I happened to be in Atlanta at the time, saw the story on CNN, and just couldn't believe that this was happening in our country. So we took 30,000 gallons of water to Flint, Michigan. This community responded to our call to action. There's a sister by the name of Miss Cupcake. She worked with me to be able to do that. And we went down there, we met with the city council. They gave us proclamations. We actually walked door to door passing out water. And people, even from Flint, was like, you all don't understand this community. You don't want to go knocking on door to door. People were crying. People were hugging us. The first couple that we met was two gentlemen who was walking 1.5 miles a day to get water, and we gave them about 100 gallons of water. So I'm proud that our community support efforts like that, and I think unfortunately when you do that, sometimes the criticism comes.
So I want to kind of divide this, because I think the Tony Robinson and the Janelle thing are kind of separate issues, right? But when you're traveling to places, what does your board think about that? Right?
Yeah.
Because is that just, how do they say that works for them?
Yeah.
And are people, the resources that you get, like, do people criticize you for taking resources from Dane County and kind of taking them to other places?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So here's what I would say: we're one of the fastest growing Boys and Girls Clubs in the country. So we have a superb board, a superb leadership team. And our board supports, it's in our mission statement to be able to do that. If we can lead in another part of the country and help another Boys and Girls Club or another community, and if our community support that, we'll do it. In every last one of those situations, our community raised money. Michael Brown's family, $20,000 plus scholarships for his siblings to go to college. We went to Joplin, Missouri. $5,000, 5 semi-truckloads full of supplies to support families in that community. And the story just goes on and on and on. Now, if we put a call of action out and the community don't respond and don't give, we don't go. And so I've never done it at the expense of Boys and Girls Clubs. It's like a restricted gift. If a donor give you a restricted gift and say, hey, I want $10,000 to go towards my pajamas for 10,000 kids, you have to go buy pajamas for 10,000 kids. So if a donor give us $10,000 to provide relief efforts in Joplin, Missouri, we're going to honor that support.
Where does that come from in you? I mean, that's different, right? Anyone, I shouldn't say anyone, you have a unique skill set. But anyone going to Oklahoma can say, I want to try to raise money, etc. But I don't know if more people even think about they should try to go to Oklahoma or Ferguson for Madison. What is it in you that feels like there's something's pushing you, right? What is driving you to say, hey, I need to go help these people or these kids or these folks in other areas? I mean, where does that come from?
I see it, Henry, as a helping hand, right? So I grew up in the projects in Chicago, and there was people who came along my path who gave me a helping hand. And so when you see these incidents happen, whether it's in our backyard or within the state or outside the state, I see Boys and Girls Club as a ministry. And if you're called to go somewhere else to minister and to lead a helping hand, lend a helping hand, you gotta go. And then if people follow you, you know you're doing the right thing. And sometimes it does create challenges in your organization because when you're called upon, you're stretching your staff, you're stretching your resources. But I would tell you, every year that I've been here, our human capital has grown, our impact has grown, the number of kids we serve have grown, our operating budget has grown, and there's 4,000 Boys and Girls Clubs in the United States, and we're one of the top performers.
Briefly, tell us how much money we fundraised and.
Yeah, I think we got to think in abundance. So between grants, contracts, service fees, individual contributions, over $20 million.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
So let's come back to the Tony Robinson and Janelle. One of the things I remember when the Tony Robinson shooting happened. I remember seeing you on TV in front of the cameras, and I also remember some of the things that people are like, why were certain people there in front of the cameras? And then I also remember when the Janelle thing happened, and that young lady got beat up pretty bad. And I remember that you were one of the few people down there, and you actually met with the Chief Koval.
Yeah.
That again is not a Boys and Girls Club call. So how did you just showed up, or how did Michael Johnson get involved in that?
That's a great question. I think people saw the work that we had did in Ferguson. So when I was invited to Ferguson, I spoke at a couple of churches. I was invited to speak at a church with Reverend Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King III. So I think that when that happened here, I had already started meeting with the United Ways of the World, and there was a task force put together of people of color and law enforcement officials. And I had tweeted about that a little bit. So the night of, I believe it was March or May 6th was the night that Tony Robinson was killed, and I'll never forget it. I had just finished helping Colleen raise, I think, $40,000 or $50,000 for one city. I spoke at that event. I was feeling really, really good.
That was at CUNA, right?
That was at CUNA Mutual. And so I was feeling really good that night. And so I get ready to go home, and I'm sitting in my basement ready to eat. And I get a phone call from Malin Mitchell, who's the president of Local 311. So he had called me and said, hey, Michael, that was an officer-involved shooting. And my response was, hey, Malin, what does that have to do with me? And he said the officer was white and the young man was African American. So I immediately put my clothes on because I knew that was going to be a major issue for this city. On my way to the crime scene, I get a text from a Facebook message from a woman by the name of Sharon Kilroy, who was friends with Tony Robinson's mother. So she asked me if I would come over and to just meet with the family and come and be there for some support. So in between that, I get a phone call from Chief Koval. I go over to his office, and I pretty much had shared with the chief that the decisions that he was about to make over the next 24 hours was going to be very, very critical for this city. So we met for about 20 minutes. I left. As I was leaving his office, I ran into the mayor. So I told the mayor, I said, you should jump in my car and the young man that was killed tonight, I'm going to meet with his family. So I woke up to Tony's mother's house. Didn't know anybody there. Saw a bunch of young men sitting outside, standing up, and some were crying, some was hurt, some were angry, rightfully so. And as I walked in, I saw Tony Robinson's mother in the basement. I hugged her, and I pretty much said, if there's anything I can do, let me know. So she shows me this picture of her son, and she asked if I would send it out on Twitter or Facebook. So I take a picture with my phone, and I pretty much asked her what was her son's name, and I think I put it on Facebook. That night, I left, went back to meet with Chief Koval, and I encouraged him to come back. Oh, the mayor was there, and we talked. She wanted her son to see a medical examiner, and so the mayor helped with that night. And it was a very challenging night, so I called Anthony Cooper from Nehemiah. I asked Chief Koval to take off his vest, to take off his gun. Went to the police office. He jumped in the back of my car, and I said, you should go over there and meet with his family. You should apologize that even if he didn't have all the facts, here's a grieving mother who just lost her son. And it's up to you on how you set the tone for this city. So Andrea didn't want to meet with him that night, but Tony Robinson's grandmother and grandfather met with him in the middle of the street at 2 o'clock in the morning. And they gave him some words, and he listened, he apologized. We prayed together that night. That following morning, I had remember when I was at Ferguson, there was a therapist that was on a panel with me, and she said, anytime there's a crisis in your community, you need to allow people to vent because it's therapeutic. So that next morning, I called Pastor G and asked him if we can utilize his church. About 200 people came out and spoke, and they vented, and I do believe that was therapeutic. The very next day, we had a candlelight visual, and the call of, I worked with the city, Young Gifted and Black, elected officials, the school superintendent, the mayor's office, and we had a citywide candlelight visual, and we asked Tony Robinson's friends to come out, including law enforcement officials, and about 1,000 people came out that night. And so I had committed at the time that we would raise money to bury Tony Robinson. We set up a GoFundMe page for the family. We raised about $20-some thousand. And the criticism came. It came from everywhere. I had police unions from across the country emailing my office. People were sending letters to my board.
They criticized the police. The police were
being
criticizing?
critical of me because they thought we were being anti-police for helping to raise money for this family. But then I was also criticized from leaders in our community because I was meeting with the police chief, and I had met with the governor. And I think any time that you try to be a bridge builder and try to bring people together, the criticism is going to happen. And so people criticized me, but at the end of the day, I have tried to lead by being a bridge builder. I have tried to support families who have needed support at a time of crisis. And in every case in this community, when there's been a crisis, somebody has called upon us to help. And sometimes we may say no, but many times we find a way to try to help.
Let's go to Janelle.
Yeah.
Because I remember that night like yesterday. There was when that young lady got beat up by the police officer. I remember that you were out down by the municipal building, and you and Maurice Cheeks, I think it was Shiva, and Andre Johnson, and other people went and met with the chief.
Yeah.
Again, so the question becomes, okay, here Michael Johnson goes again. Here we go again. Yeah. Michael is out here talking. He's out in front of the press when something happens. Michael just has to make sure he's in the room. And I also know that, one, I want to talk about what happened with the conversation in the room, because I know some people think what some things were said and not said.
Right.
So one, why did you go down for the Janelle situation?
Yeah.
And then two, the conversation that you had with the Chief Koval. I think that's really important to clarify. What
Absolutely. Thanks, Max, for that question. So I was actually at the Goodman Community Center. I had just finished helping Mom. They had a fundraiser that night. I had helped them raise $5,000 to send to support one of their students to go to college. So I'm in the parking lot, and I just happened to be talking to Tony Robinson's mother. It was myself, Minister Khalif, and my phone started blowing up. So I had ignored it because I was trying to have this conversation with Tony's mother. And I hadn't seen her in about a month or so. So Anthony Cooper had called me like 4 times, and he was like, Mike, you have to watch this video. And he literally texted that to me. So I watched it, and I was like, wow. So he said, hey, I'm actually here with one of Janelle's best friends, and I think it was her sister, and it was 2 other girls. He said, Mike, can you come right away? And to be honest with you, I had a long day. I think we had a board meeting that morning. I had been up since like 6:30. I was ready to go home. So I said, okay, let me stop by and see what happened. So the family had requested me through Anthony Cooper. I get down there and they wanted some advice from me. So I'm on the corner and I said, what can I do to help you? And she said, do you know the police chief? We really want to have a conversation with the police chief, and we want her, we don't want her sitting in a jail. She's probably hurt, we're concerned. So I called Chief Koval. He takes a meeting with me literally immediately. So he said, Mike, give me time to get to the office. So by then, people started coming. Freedom Inc., elected officials, Young Gifted in Black. And so the family asked, they said, can you help us deal with the press? Can you kind of serve as a spokesperson while we're in that meeting with Chief Koval? So we go, I said, what do you want me to relay to him? And they were like, we want her free. And I said, by the time we come out of this office, I said, it's probably going to be a bunch of press. So my advice is one of you all should be the spokesperson, talk about who she is, talk about where she worked, and tell her story. So we get into this meeting with Koval. It was a state representative, a couple of elders, the family, myself, Anthony Cooper, Andre Johnson. So I asked Chief Koval if he could debrief us on what happened. And I actually requested right there on the spot if she could be released. And so he said, Mike, I don't know. I'm going to look into this. Here's what happened based on all the reports that we've gotten. And we were concerned about her physical health. So that night I asked him if he would give me something in writing. I wanted to know if a physician had seen her, if she was okay. And then I think we ended up coordinating. I think Reverend Mitchell went to go see her. I got in writing for him that night that a medical team did take a look at her. So while we were in the meeting, Andre Johnson from the county had talked about this restorative justice program. I had never heard of it, but I was like, hey, if that gets her out of jail, we want her out of jail in the next couple of days, and whatever it takes to be able to do that, we'll do that. So Chief told me at that time that with that particular program, he had to get buy-in from the union, the police officers, the people at the mall, and he pretty much briefed me along the way that he was going down that path, but he also said he had to get the district attorney to buy into that. So the family wanted her out. They supported that, and I wanted to help advocate for that, and that's what we did. When she got out, I wanted to make sure that other leaders were supporting her. I know there was people who helped with medical support, financial support, legal support, and that was pretty much my role. Even that night, I chose to, at first I stood behind the cameras, and then I think because of who I am and because I facilitated the meeting, some of the press started asking me questions, And I just pretty much gave a run through on what had happened that night with Chief Coble.
And so tell me, what were some of the criticisms that you heard about what you supposedly said in that meeting?
Yeah, so there were people like, it was Michael Johnson who recommended the restorative justice program for her. I didn't even know what it was until I got into that meeting. And I think what it is, as I learned this community, Henry, I'm not from here, right? I'm a big black guy that's vocal, that's not afraid to be uncomfortable, and sometimes that pisses people off. But you know what? I don't care. Sometimes it's white people get mad at me. Sometimes it's my people who get mad at me. But I'm always gonna follow my heart. I'm always gonna do what I think is the right thing for kids and families in this community. And if people take shots at me, let it be.
Love me or hate me, this is who I am. So it comes up to a first question. I mean, I say this over and over, time and time again. There's two people that I get the most hate about associating with in the city. It's you and Brandy Grayson. Mm-hmm. I catch more heat and I defend you two more than I do anyone else across the city. Both doing two different things, very uniquely different. How do you, you get a lot of hate, right? Mm-hmm. And you tend to respond to a lot of the hate.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so your supporters will be like, Mike, why respond to this stuff?
Yeah.
And your detractors will be like, well, why are you trying to do everything, right? You're always in the media, right? You're always on TV. You're always running around. You're fundraising all this money. It's all about Michael Johnson.
No, it's all about the Boys and Girls Club kids.
Right.
And that's how you raise $20 million. You stay relevant. You respond to issues in the community. And as a result, you get investments made to support the community that you're responsible for.
So there's a method to the madness, you're saying. So you're not just in the press or always posting stuff on Facebook. I literally wake up in the morning. I go to Madison365, which everyone should do that first, right? And then I go to your stuff to see what you're doing. So you're saying there's a method, there's a reason that you're doing this, or it's just you wanting attention?
No, it's fundraising one-on-one. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm responsible for the lives of 50-some-100 kids, almost 200 employees. And we have a big, bold plan for this community, and it's my responsibility to champion that plan, to help families who need support in this community, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And so there's a difference between boasting and being passionate. I'm passionate about this work. I enjoy this work. I get up every day excited about coming to work. And I like telling the story of Boys and Girls Clubs. And I'm not going to apologize to no one for doing that. To no one.
Why? Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But why respond? I mean, you get
the criticism.
Why respond to it? I mean, because, you know, like you and I have talked many times. In political one-on-one, they tell you politics.
I know.
If you're President Obama, you don't respond to someone else.
Yeah.
Why even do it? Why even feed into that negativity? So what is it in this? I think it's that Chicago in you, right? That Chicago that I want to get back. But why do you respond?
I'm growing. And here's what I would say. I'm not perfect. This community also showed me a lot of love. I mean, the move to a city like this and to be named by Madison365, one of the most influential African Americans in the state. 6 years ago, I didn't know one person in Madison. And so I get shown a lot of love. But when people show you love and when you're leading and you're making people uncomfortable, you're going to have people that's going to say negative things about you. Now, sometimes people will advise me, Mike, don't respond to that crap. And sometimes I don't. But when it's another influential leader in this community that call me a coon or Uncle Tom, I'm going to come back at them. You punch me, I'm going to punch back.
That's sad.
And here's what I would say. People don't know, some people know my background. I grew up in some of the toughest public housing developments in the country. I'm 41 years old. I lived in the projects for 24 years on the west side of Chicago. I stayed in Cabrini Green. I stayed in the Village, in the Abla homes. It gets no tougher than that. Most of my family's still in poverty. I'm the first person in my family to graduate and get a college degree. So I'm going to grind. I'm going to work hard for these kids because I want them to get degrees. I want them to be successful. And at the end of the day, I don't want these kids shortchanged. And that's why it's my responsibility to go out with my board and my team and our staff to deliver on the promise, to raise resources for them, and to also help tell their story. So I'm going to post every day. I'm going to tweet every day. I'm going to work with the press. I'm going to work with black people, white people. I'm going to work with community activists. I'm going to work with police. But at the same time, don't get it twisted. You take resources away from my kids. You try to hurt my kids. Ask the mayor, ask the governor, ask other community leaders. I would throw down with some of the best of them.
You can even hear it in your voice of passing, like you elevated your voice a little bit. And give you your credit. I think people should want to know. You said earlier that you're not from Madison.
Yeah.
And you have made such a huge impact on Madison, to the point I walk around in Madison and people call me Michael Johnson. And
I don't know if that's a compliment in itself.
a big brother, they know big brother. We both laugh, same personalities. But I think it's a testament to all the stuff that you've done, that people actually know you to that impact. The question I would have for you though is, at some point, the negativity has to wear on you, right? You have to have other opportunities other places. You have to have opportunities. People might want to come up and play. I mean, you've made this Boys and Girls Club. You took it from here to here, just by straight numbers.
Yeah.
Why even stick around here in Madison and deal with this negativity? I mean, why do it?
My work is not done. I still have the fire lit. We got a big agenda. And honestly, I want to stay here. I would say another 5 years before I feel like we've accomplished what we set out on our agenda. And this chapter in my life is still incomplete. And money won't lure me. I turned down almost a $500,000 job at a national oral healthcare company to take this job. I've been offered national roles in other organizations, and I choose to stay here because of the support that we get. I enjoy being here, so there's no reason for me to leave right now.
It's interesting because you said money is not a big issue for you. So I know you go out and speak. Every time I'm texting you somewhere, you're in Cleveland somewhere, you're always speaking. You know, I think, are you doing that for money? Like, what are you going out and speaking about?
Yeah, I became a millionaire speaking about these events. No, you know what it is, Henry? It's another opportunity for me to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club kids. So sometimes I get asked to speak at commencement ceremonies. I get asked to speak at different banquets, conferences. And here's what I would tell them. Make a donation to Boys and Girls Club. You cover all of my expenses. I'm going to charge you $400 an hour. From the time I get on that plane, write a check to Boys and Girls Club, and I'm all in. And so whether it's a conference in Las Vegas or the University of Michigan or the International Rotary Club, I always ask those folks to donate to the Boys and Girls Clubs because it's the right thing to do. And if there's a methodology that I can utilize my talent to help kids, we do it. And we raised all kind of money. You look at the scissors that Fiskars sells. We've done cause marketing. So every time you buy a pair of scissors from Fiskars, we get a piece of that. When you look at Lunchables through Oscar Mayer, we get a piece of that. We negotiate that right in this office. You think about Van Houten Pickles, who sell millions of pickles every year. Boys and Girls Club logo is on there. We get a piece of that. And so I'm learning, I'm growing, and if there's an opportunity for somebody to fly me to a city to speak up on an issue, and if they're going to cover my expenses and make a donation to the Boys and Girls Club, I'm always in and out.
Got it.
Yeah.
So another thing I hear concerns is, someone who grew up on the north side of Madison. Mm-hmm. I used to work at Vera Court Community Center.
Yeah.
Shout out to Vera Court.
Yeah.
This place like East Side Community Center. There's so many different nonprofits that are doing really wonderful work in the community. Mm-hmm. A lot of them will have concerns that someone like you, Michael, come in with this brand, Boys and Girls Club, with your skills, is just taking up all the money, right? What would you say to those organizations that are saying, hey, look, Boys and Girls Club is just taking up all the money. We're doing good work over here to help.
Yeah, step your game up. That's a myth. All right, this is a very giving community. In America, almost $400 billion was given to about 1 million nonprofits last year. 4 out of 5 philanthropic dollars come from individuals. So if you're sitting in your office all day hoping that resources are gonna come, it ain't gonna happen. My day starts at 6:30 most mornings, and I'm in the house by 10:30 p.m. most days. So it's grinding, it's meeting with people, it's having relationships with donors, and that's what it's all about. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of organizations doing good work, a lot of community centers that do good work, and some people may say, well, I wouldn't say we're the 800-pound gorilla, but we're probably the 150-pound gorilla, right? So we're growing. And what I would say is that when I took over Boys and Girls Clubs, we were struggling financially. We didn't have a COO, a program chief. We didn't have a finance person. I was the finance person, the HR person, the chief cleaning person. We've had to create those positions. And then we looked at efficiency to figure out a way to repurpose dollars to raise more money to support the work that we do. And as a result, we built a strategic plan. A lot of community centers and nonprofits don't have a real strategic plan that they're living. And so we got our board engaged, we got our staff engaged, we got the community engaged. I remember when we came out with that $15 million plan, people laughed at us and said, there's no way you're gonna get 90% of low income kids to graduate from high school and go on to college. People didn't think it was possible. People said there's no way you'll find 500 jobs for teenagers. There's no way you'll put a community center and a fitness center and get an office like this for $1 a year. All of it was in a plan that we created 12 years ago, and we keep that plan alive because that's our blueprint. That's our roadmap for these kids. And sometimes you gotta do crazy things to raise money. That's why I've jumped through burning buildings, slept outside for 3 or 4 days, swam in lakes, whatever it takes to support our kids. We gotta go all out, and we gotta think bold. We have to raise the bar for them. And sometimes we gotta do non-traditional things to get results for our kids.
Say if you're king for a day, right? King for a year or whatever, and someone said, okay, Mike, we want you to help us solve so many different issues that we have in our city, equity, gap, all those things, and we want you to help these other nonprofits to rev up and what you said, step up.
Yeah.
This is outside your Boys and Girls Club, but just with your expertise, I'm just curious, what game plan, if you could draw up a game plan for the city to help other nonprofits, what would that be?
So I think it's partnerships, right? So our partnership with the school district is a critical partnership. So a lot of people don't know we have almost 100 paid tutors in classrooms during the school day. So I think partnerships are critical. Strategic planning is critical. Board development is critical. My board raises about 10% of my operating budget. So if you don't have an engaged board, I have almost 100 bosses. So between my board and then the committees that come underneath that board, I report to about 100 people, 100 different personalities, and you have to know how to navigate through those relationships and build an infrastructure to inspire people to support your cause. Now, if you're coming to work all day, you're sitting in your office and you just tired, we have to earn the right to sit in these chairs every day. So if you're just coasting, if you're not getting things done for young people, you're actually doing a disservice to them. So my advice would be, when you look at the disparities that exist, mass incarceration, the academic achievement gap, the unemployment rates in this city, we need a citywide plan that brings the business community, the philanthropic community, the nonprofit community, and it might take a referendum or something like that, because what we're doing, we're piecemealing and $25,000 there, $50,000 there. You want to solve these issues, you have to put resources behind them. One of the reasons why Avid Tops is doing so well is we raise almost $2 million a year for that program. We put 100 tutors inside the schools in classrooms with kids. We have full-time staff that's supporting them, and as a result, a large percentage of my kids are graduating from high school and going to college. 337 kids go to 25 schools. Go to 61 schools in 25 states across the United States. These are low-income kids of color. Imagine if we didn't raise that $2 million, what would happen to these young people? So we got to know the resource development piece of it, and we got to have a plan. And a lot of that's the recipe that's missing from the playbook of a lot of our nonprofits.
And I hear this, like, we have over 6,000 nonprofits in Dane County, and we're still doing so bad when it comes to certain parts of our community. I like what you're saying about having a game plan. The question is, who, if you could, again, you're king for the day, who's at that table with that game plan? Who's helping put that plan together? Because you think funders have to be a part of that, right? Because I think funders sometimes kind of go after the shiny toy instead of things that's being effective in our community. So who would be at that table to kind of create that plan?
So I think we got all the data right. There's a lot of efficiency. So my first year at the club, we were able to identify about $150,000 in costs that we were able to repurpose. I actually think there's a lot of nonprofits that need to be acquired, need to be repurposed, need to merge with others to create efficiency. We leave a lot of money on the table, right? There's a lot of federal dollars that we do not go after because we don't have enough development people to go out there and to make resources happen for families in our community. Just like in a business. In a business you have, in most businesses, you have a sales team, an HR team, a training team, this team and that team. Our nonprofits, most don't have a sufficient infrastructure for a sales team. They go out there to bring in resources, don't have a training team, don't have a retention plan to keep talent, and because we can't raise resources, we lose people. And that's the nature of the space that we occupy, and we got to begin to change that. So I've had some of those challenges, but this is what I feel good about my team. I think Boys and Girls Clubs has the most diverse staff in Dane County. You walk in my office, you see black, white, you see young, you see old, you see Filipino, you see straight, you see gay, you see Christian, you see Muslim. It's like the Rainbow Coalition. And when you have a diverse workforce, you have a diversity of thought, a diversity of perspective, and it's reflective of the community that you serve. And so I think that in Madison, we are large enough but small enough that we can change some of these issues that we see. But sometimes our egos get in the way. Sometimes we become territorial. Sometimes we sling mud. Sometimes we call each other out of our names, and that prevents progress from taking forward.
I want to switch subject a little bit here because one thing, just being a Madison my whole life, I've seen black leaders come through the city who've been and working like you, doing nonprofit work, or just really engaged in the community. People like Lamar Billups, Anthony Brown, Steve Brungan, even Kaleem's at the Urban League, who their health took a toll, the stress, balancing family. How do you are one of the busiest people I know. MJ, you are always moving, always fundraising, doing stuff. How do you want to take care of your health? Not just physical, mental, spiritual health. And at the same time, you got a wonderful family. And balancing and spending that time with your family. How do you balance those things out? Because I've seen it where a lot of black leaders before have lost some of those things because they're just trying to help the community.
No doubt. It's a balance, and I struggle with it. So I've gained about 70 pounds since I've taken this job. My wife has done a really good job making sure that when it's family time, it's family time. And so she helps to keep me balanced. I'm learning to take more vacations with my family. And at the end of the day, my kids are getting older. I have a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I don't want them to grow up and say daddy was at work all day and never got an opportunity to spend time. So people who know me know sometimes I have my kids with me at events. I'm taking vacations with my family. On some weekends, I've got off. I used to be on 19 boards and committees.
Wow.
I got off all of them except for 3. And it was really my wife who challenged me to say, Mike, man, you're spending like 50 hours a month outside of your work at Boys and Girls Clubs on all these committees and all these boards.
And I think that's important for people who are listening and watching right now, because what happens is when you're in Madison, if you're the one few person of color, they try to get you into all these different boards.
Right.
And then what happens is you can't be efficient or effective in these boards.
That's right.
Then they start going behind you and saying, well, that person's always late or they can't help.
That's right.
So it's a trap. So I think what you're saying is kind of scale back.
Yeah. Scale back, focus, and empower other leaders. So I've gotten smarter at that. And then I think about from a health perspective, right? So a lot of times you'll see I've tried it, whether it's biking at 4:30 in the morning, or I've tried everything, and I haven't done well at that, and so I got to get better.
But you got a gym here now.
I got a gym that I put inside the boy that one of our donors paid for, and so it's doing stuff like a gym in both of our Boys and Girls Clubs. So making sure that you take time with family and take time for yourself. I would also try to empower other leaders. Most of the people who have been in leadership roles here have gone on and done great things. I have 2 leaders who now work at the Madison School District. One's an executive director, one's the director of the AVID program. My former COO is the president. I'm on the board of Kaplan Family Charities. He's the president of that foundation. I've had other people move on to colleges and universities in leadership roles. So people have utilized Boys and Girls Clubs as a training ground to support kids and have advanced their careers in the process, which I fully support. When I first got here, I had no choice but to be here all the time. Some days I would spend a night inside the Taft Street Boys and Girls Club. That building, if anybody remember what that building looked like 7 years ago, it was dark, it was gloomy, it was ugly. It looked like a bag of Skittles. It had 18, 19 different colors throughout the building. It smelled like Kentucky Fried Chicken on steroids, with deep fried, every single thing. You walk in there today, it looks like a country club for kids. And so there was a lot of issues that we had to address. So I had to put in the time. And then people stepped up. But now that I have a little bit more staff, I'm not working 80 hours a week anymore. It's still probably about 60. At some point, I'm hoping it'll go down to 40. And I just think there's a balance when you empower other people, you build infrastructure, you can have a quality of life where you can spend quality time with your family and get involved in other initiatives. So I'm one of the founders of the Focus Interruption Coalition, who was instrumental in lobbying the mayor and the city council to support a $3 million plan to target violence prevention initiatives in the city of Madison. Just this week, I worked with a coalition of leaders in Fitchburg to advocate for more funding to support at-risk families in the city of Fitchburg. We have done that with other leaders in this community. And so I've worked with a variety of different groups and have tried to utilize some of my skills to support other leaders, but at the same time learn from them and then support one another.
Last question.
Yeah.
If someone's coming in here from outside of Madison, a person of color who's coming in your world, executive type of thing, what advice would you tell them to how to get into Madison?
Don't join too many boards right away. Get to know people, stay focused on your work, and I would say networking was critical. My first 90 days, I met with almost 400 people. I wanted to meet with people. I wanted to understand what the issues were in this community, because Madison is not Philadelphia, it's not St. Louis, It's not Chicago. So I wasn't gonna come into the city pretending like I knew what the hell I was doing. So I picked up so much intelligence by just simply having coffee with people, having focus groups, understanding what the issues were, and it was really a good springboard that helped me through our strategic planning process.
Thank you for your time, MJ. Anything else you want to leave us with?
I think you got it, bro.
MJ,
Thanks,
choose
man.
one, anyone.
Appreciate
Jordan,
you, man.
Jackson. Appreciate it.
Wow, that was quick.